Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
In 1969, ZZ Top was founded. We continued at 7 o'clock without stopping. Years of continuous touring to become a member of the Warner Brothers rankings, our initial Warner Brothers official release. He doesn't have to slam guitars live to demonstrate his rock star status. He doesn't require scandals, excitement in social media, or startling remarks to keep in mind. The length of Billy Gibbons' chest beard, trademark dark shades, and without Paul, the ever-present Golden Gates have become a priceless symbol of the South rock culture in America for more than half a century. As ZZ Top's frontman, a band that revolutionized blues in the Texas style rock, Gibbons is more than simply a remarkable guitarist, but the personification of steadfast devotion to musical identity. Although a lot of artists follow trends, he decides to stand firmly and remain still. In the flurry of contemporary life, holding listen to his riffs, his groove, and his spirit. And oddly enough, that rejection to change has given him a unique quality. In a wild rock environment, where fame frequently results in damage, Billy Gibbons is notable not because of his not for what he hasn't done. Absence of drugs addictions, untidy, unions and no bankruptcies, no band disbandment in the middle of journey. Only one continuous piece of music and adhering to it. However, behind the beneath the silver beard, a serene presence and gritty voice, there's a voyage ahead, from a youngster who is completely enamored with Elvis champion of ZZ Top. From around the world triumph to the sorrow of losing his closest companion. From a musician in the studio, become a living representation of American history. And the most important query is, how has Billy Gibbons were able to remain unharmed while around him? The rock world blazed through so many myths. The narrative provides the solution. Comes next. Childhood. Billy Gibbons was born in Houston on December 16, 1949, Texas. Not in a distant area or a poor slum rural, but into the middle class of family with a strong artistic heritage. His, Frederick Royal Gibbons, his father was an stage director, conductor of an orchestra, and had been employed by MGM Studios. In that music was not a luxury in the home. It was air. It was words. It was the one item that is always served during meals and in all of Billy's childhood dreams. Billy was only 5 years old in 1955. He went to watch Elvis Presley with his father play live. The young boy, occupying what he said, shocked the gathering. Observed. A guy who, using only a few notes, may light up a whole auditorium. Billy remembered more than just the guitar. Sound. He recalled the lights on stage, the yells, the perspiration, and what he would subsequently refer to as real life of rock and roll. Shortly after, Billy started with drums before moving to guitar in his early teens. His initial tool, the present that Gibson gave, was a melody creator. Signaled the start of an adventure that nobody anticipated to last over 60 years. But more significant than the guitar, Billy had a significant edge in and of itself. Being raised in a wealthy musical surroundings ranging from his dad's jazz to the growing street blues of Texas-California rock wave. When I was a teenager, Billy went to the Hollywood part-time professional school organization for emerging artists. There, he studied with people like Liza. More significantly, Minnelli had exposure to the world behind the scenes of important recording studios in Hollywood. It has started experimenting here, with tube, fuzz effects, and audio equipment amplifiers, as well as the filthy tone that would subsequently define ZZ Top. The work of Billy Gibbons, there were no tragedies during childhood, yet additionally no well-defined route was established for him. Having been born into a cozy and adequately supplied, the only thing that can make you better is your family. Passion is what makes you stand out. Regarding Gibbons, that fervor permeated every BB riff. King, Each shaky note that Jimmy Reed, each guitar roar battling Toby heard in a world full of noise. Gibbons, Billy didn't try to flee as a child. He developed up sprinting in the direction of music, a path that formed his identity as an artist at a young age. It was not a childhood of disobedience. It was the early years of a person who knew that. Song didn't even have to be loud. It had to feel natural. And from that emotion, a silent but renowned, the guitarist started to appear in the Illumination. Early career. Late in the 1960s, although a large portion of American children was involved in anti-war campaigns, and Billy Gibbons, psychedelic music, hardly, he started his own band at the age of 20. The Moving Sidewalks, its name. It was a rock group that has a lot of acid rock opinions that were directly impacted by Jimmy Cream and Hendrix. They issued A-Flash, a single album released in 1968. However, the focus wasn't only on the music. It was the unique bond between Jimi Hendrix and Gibbons. Hendrix, a musician who is renowned for having air, as previously stated during an interview on the Billy Gibbons on the Mike Douglas Show, is one among the best kid guitarists in America. Not every compliment prompts someone to take observe, but when it originates from the whole guitar universe, Hendrix looked in the direction of the young man from Texas. But the relocation sidewalks were short-lived. The flooding of the scene for psychedelic rock paired with Gibbons' desire for something more deeply ingrained brought him back to Southern blues, his birthplace. Additionally, from that, a fresh concept emerged. A group comprising just 3 people, but a sound as strong as a whole army. In 1969, Dusty was the official birthplace of ZZ Top. Frank Beard on drums and Hill on bass. Like many others, the band began performing at local arenas and bars, opening for well-known performers. However, From the Gibbons had a clear concept at the start. He wished for ZZ Top to be more than just another blues group. He desired it to become into an emblem of Southern culture in America. Music with a dusty, gasoline-like tone roads, chilly beer, and hot temperatures evenings in the summer. The first album released by ZZ Top was published in 1971. The market wasn't shook, but it showed anything significant. This was a band with a distinct sound and chords that were straightforward but adhered like adhesive, and a sound brimming with the essence of Texas in each note. Billy Gibbons didn't make a big noise in his plan. He decided to construct gradually, tour by tour, album after album, until America started muttering ZZ Top as an emerging phenomenon. It wasn't breakthrough success. It was a steady, deep rumble like a diesel engine's hum. Silent, but distinct. Additionally, at the Billy, the riff was at the center of it all. Creator, the one who drives rhythm. The one who'd lined the band's unique aesthetic fashion, the dark spectacles, the long beard, the cowboy clothes with silver accents. Hepblade, more than simply music. He pivoted, making a living for himself and his bandmates. Brand. One that would eventually turn into among the longest-lasting 3-piece performers throughout rock history. ZZ Top started off doing blues and evolved into boogie, and gradually turned into a need voice on the musical map of America. However, everything, from Texas's dusty bars to the largest stages in the world, began from one extremely basic concept in Billy Gibbons' mind. More people are not needed. We simply need one guitar and the appropriate individuals. Career success is something that feels. If the 1970s served as the starting point for ZZ Top, and then in the 1980s, Billy Gibbons and his band peaked, not only in terms of music, but also as a force in popular culture. How did a trio of the blues rock group becomes a worldwide phenomenon? In the synth-pop era, neon-lit stages, and MTV, the response is found in the core of Gibbons' visual perception and a musical soul. A brilliant fusion of the old and the new, carried out methodically without ever losing the original spirit. In 1973, when Trey Ombors was released, Z-Dust from the American South to the top of the global scene. The song Lang is a fierce blues riff that was influenced by a well-known brothel, turned into one of the most legendary rock tunes ever. However, that was only the start. Gibbons, Billy was more than just a fantastic guitarist. He was aware how music can be packaged as an image. When MTV was changing the way rock was consumed by audiences, and ZZ Top released Eliminator, a groundbreaking album released in 1983 during the band's existence. With songs such as Man in Sharp Clothes, Give Me Everything You ZZ Top didn't merely love and have legs. Control radio waves. They overcame television displays with vibrant, funny music videos with vintage automobiles, beautiful women, and two bearded men in dark shades that became instantly recognizable symbols. Eliminator sold over 10 million copies in the U.S., becoming one of the best-selling albums of the decade. What made it even more special was this. Despite incorporating electronic elements, ZZ Top's music never lost its roots. Gibbons remained loyal to his catchy stripped-down blues riffs, his signature growly vocals, and a stage presence that was nearly immobile, but radiated unmistakable authority. From 1983 to 1990, ZZ Top became a multi-platform phenomenon, appearing in ads, movies, immortalized in Lego figurines, and nearly becoming the household face of American rock. The band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004 and is recognized as one of the finest successful trios in music history, alongside Rush and the Police. Through it all, Billy Gibbons remained the sonic final choice, producer, and architect ZZ Top's maker. He was not required to shout to demonstrate his leadership. His guitar's volume was sufficient to order a pause. The solos by Gibbons weren't technological displays. They were swinging, swagger, along with that delay in signing that gave the impression that he was speaking, via the strings. In this period, Billy also grew, expanding his horizons, creating for other artists, Ichiododyu. Gibbons doesn't simply amass automobiles. To him, everyone is a metal riff, a piece of art, as he once explained. Guitars and cars are similar. They must be soulful and have the appropriate tone. Design, and they should be honored, if you want to go far with them. Numerous people questioned why Dusty Hill and he continued to the length of their beards, and the reason they never deviated from that famous picture for decades. Billy would just grin and, because don't lie, you say. If you allow it to, if it grows long enough, it will reveal what's genuine. No flash, no need to demonstrate anything. Gibbons influenced his personal life in the same manner that he performs. Music, with soul, in time, and without not giving a damn about what people think. Maybe, consequently, following 50 years in therock culture's disarray, he's still himself. A Texas-born guitar legend dust, yet bearing a man's heart. Who knows what constitutes enough? Billy Gibbons never made an effort to influence others. Do not forget him. He just decided to reside in a manner in which, should someone happen to think of him, they may grin and remark, "That was a decent man. With a life that's gone through so many phases, perhaps that's sufficient already." Heritage and impact. Less ostentatious than Eddie Van, not quite as technically flashy as Halen Steve Vai, who is most definitely not the type toil for acknowledgement, just like many others guitarists. Billy Gibbons took another route, where he does not race his guitar, but travels at a leisurely pace through American highways are dusty. South, and that's exactly what it is. Silence that has established him as one of the America's most influential guitarists' history of rock. Gibbons' style of play is a combination of instinct and tradition. He pulls from the rich well of blues, a language that is sentimental but ancient, adds the distinctive boogie rhythm of the South, with a dash of Marshall amp snarl and a purposefully filthy tone, However, he isn't distinguished by his speed or challenging. It's self-control. Billy Gibbons is aware of when to play and other things, crucially, when not to. What you play isn't what makes music, it's regarding the things you don't play. Billy once said in a workshop. In a time when a lot of artists gauge their impact by opinions and supporters, Gibbons continues to devote it to an ancient musical philosophy. Emotion and the artist must be present in sound. Identification is a requirement. He has become a role model because of this. For guitarists of generations, Dave Grodan Auerbach, Jack White, and the Black John Mayer and Keys have both publicly showed respect for Billy Gibbons, not only for his methods, but also for his honesty in musical selections. Additionally, his influence is not limited to guitarists. Under Gibbons' direction, ZZ Top developed into symbol in popular culture. The picture of two cowboys with long beards driving in a red MTV and Cadillac videos turned into iconic image of the 1980s. These images are still used in movies, advertisements, including video games, that are turning Gibbons into not only a creative brand that represents a clearly spirit of America, cool, easy, and steadfast. One of the main components of Gibbons' legacy is his Pearly, a 1959 Gibson Les Paul, Gates, the guitar player behind Maniaconic riffs. Later, Gibson reissued it as a basis for signatures, and it became into guitar that is highly sought for in the world of collectors. In addition to music, Gibbons left his impact on vintage and design automobiles as well as fashion. He has cooperated with eyewear brands, specialty automobile stores, and even made appearances on well-known TV programs. However, whenever he appears, he stays distinctly himself. Long dark shades, a cowboy hat, and a beard, as though Toe said, "My identity was formed a long time ago. Change is not necessary." And that is Billy Gibbons' strongest suit. He doesn't chase the times, but he remains steadfast inside them. He doesn't have to yell it, be recalled. All he has to do is play one note, and all becomes quiet. Now life. When many artists are becoming older, retired, or rely on the inheritance of their history, Billy Gibbons is steadfastly rooted on the stage, an industrious artist who doesn't want to slow down. Following the tragic death of his longtime Dusty Hill, his bandmate in 2021, didn't select retreat or rest. Rather, he fulfilled his pledge by carrying on with travel the United States with ZZ Top and overseas. He views every performance as honoring the audience, the past, and to a buddy who is at their breaking point next to him. Beyond retaining ZZ Top, Gibbons is still alive and has suffered an vivacious solo profession. From Perfecto in 2015, Mundo added Afro-band tastes to the traditional Big Bad Blues gritty 2018 and the textures of the Desert Hardware in 2021. Every solo record has been a subdued yet deep experiment. He doesn't do it again. Oneself without ever abandoning his roots. This type of adaptability is uncommon for an artist with more than 5 years a century. Gibbons in 2024 and 2025 keeps demonstrating that age is not a restriction. It serves as fuel for more in-depth, real music. He made the single available. Contributed to Living It Up, Down in Texas to the television show's soundtrack Landman, and is getting ready to release his 4th album by the artist alone. In the meanwhile, ZZ Top is preparing their debut studio album in more than 20 years. However, Billy the Road is far from over for Gibbons. In early 2025, he went on tour with the BFGs, and is currently in charge of ZZ Top through the Summertime Elevation Tour, performing more than 50 dates throughout North America. Even Frank Beard, the drummer, had to step in returned because of health problems. Gibbons led the group in the same direction that he has experienced a great deal of change over the decades without ever losing course. There are not loud calls or political messaging to take action. Gibbons uses serenity to inspire by remaining faithful to the song and by life by a straightforward ideology. Music never stops. It simply moves silently, and I still haven't started that shift. Thus, Billy Gibbons hasn't departed despite being 75 on the platform. He doesn't stay for the lights. Rather than for the applause, it's the only location where his music can really hurt living. There has never been a Billy Gibbonsman, you're loud. Instead of stomping across the stage or thrash his arms as some of his peers have peers in rock. He just stands silently for a long time, bearded, caressing the strings with his left hand, playing every riff with his right hand as if he's slowly pouring whiskey into a thick glass. However, this particular slowness and maintaining the poise that has made Gibbons an essential character in the history of music from America. In a society where artists frequently exchange identities for market patterns, he made the decision to remain loyal to the music that initially roused his spirit. Unadulterated blues, dusty guitar tones, and a southern rhythm. He did not adapt to the times. Instead, the hours needed to change in order to accept his mannerisms. For more than 50 years, in addition to leading ZZ Top, Billy Gibbons throughout each change in the song industry, but moreover outlined a method of life, grounded, calm, and honest. No scandals, just music, no tricks, ardor, and a beard cultivated over time as well as principle. He hasn't had a successful career, brilliant arc with unexpected peaks. The journey has been steady and full of low notes that were always in time. He's lost a bandmate, suffered from poor judgment, and faded from the limelight of the media, but never stopped producing, capturing, performing, and making an impression with each string he moved. If the tale of Billy Gibbons, this is what it teaches us. Perseverance can sometimes be the loudest voice. And in a world full of chaos, people who understand how to maintain their own speed, just as here the ones who guarantee that music never gets lost. If you think Billy Gibbons left behind a legacy worth honoring, click like, subscribe, and activate therein to ensure you don't miss the following tale. Do you remember anything about ZZ Top? Distribute, because music endures. Leave it in the comments on the occasions when we share the story. See you at the next.